This conference will now be recorded.
I'd like to welcome you all to the Leader and Speaker Briefing. My name is Mary Ann Bach. I'm Director of Continuing Education at ISPE. And I want to start by thanking all of you for your contribution to the annual meeting. Your participation is key to the success of this event, and the contribution that you make impacts the work of your colleagues across the industry. So it is significant, the work that you're doing in preparation for this. And the goal of the speaker briefing today is to help you prepare for that. I want to start just with a brief overview of today's agenda. We'll be talking about the resources that are available to you, the deliverables that are upcoming, and helping you to prepare for those. And we'll talk about tips and tricks for effective panels and presentations, and a little bit about our mobile app. I want to start with the people resources that we have available for you. You can see my name here along with our Vice President Wanda Neal, Kathy Gerson, Maggie Domond, and Sigma Chaudhry. All of us will be available for you in preparation for the conference. Feel free to contact us at any time via email. You can click on our names and it will take you directly to our email. And I've also included our cell phone numbers so that once you're on site, if you have any issues that you need assistance with, we will be there to intervene. If you have any trouble with audio visual or your presentations, anything of that nature will be available. The other thing I want to note here is that if you have trouble reaching any one of us, don't hesitate to move on to the next person. We can all assist. And the other staff resource for you is right at the registration or check-in desk. The staff members who are working that desk will be able to connect you with us by radio or by phone if you're having any difficulty. So don't hesitate to reach out to them once you're on site. I want to focus now a little bit on the website and on-site resources that we have available for you. One of the primary things that I want to point out as your go-to spot for forms and information and deliverable dates is our Speaker Connect site. We've put together this site to facilitate your preparation for any conference that you might be participating in. And once you reach the site, you just simply click on your event, and it will take you to the resources that I've just mentioned. You'll see the program development team outlined here, again with our contact information. You'll find the list of deliverable deadlines. We also provided some resources for conference presentation, the most important of which is the PowerPoint template that all of you will be using as you prepare your presentation. If you are speaking for the event, the expectation is that you use the ISPE template for your presentation. If you are a FOIA category winner, a regulatory speaker, a keynote speaker, you may use your own organization's template. We've also included some presentation frequently asked questions and a resource that I'll talk a little bit about later on developing a great presentation. You can also go to Speaker Connect to access the forms that you're required to complete. Many of you have started this process already. The presenter agreement is here. The presentation abstract description and bio form is here, and some information about submitting your photo. And then we've also added some social media sharing instructions. We'll talk a little bit more about this later, but you can go back to this if you're uncertain of how to share the information about your participation in the conference with your colleagues. So let me go back to the slide deck here. We've also included links on the slide deck here for the annual meeting main page and how to explore the program, and a little bit about Philadelphia as you're planning your travel. I want to start with the the information that we have available on the home page. You'll see the keynote speakers featured here, a little bit about the technical workshops that'll take place on Sunday to highlight those, and some information about training. But in addition to that, I want to call your attention specifically to the agenda page. You can get to it by clicking on View Agenda, and you'll see that everything in the program is outlined here. And you can, when you get to this page, you can click Expand All, and it will take you to all of the detail under each of these sections. The other approach to it is to open each one individually so that you can see the detail about any given session. This particular one, and all of the ones that we have the detail on, will have a session description. It'll have a photo and information about the session leader, the presentations that are to be given during that session and those descriptions, and then a photo and bio information about each speaker that's slated to present during that session. And once you have provided your photo and bio, attendees will be able to click on your name, and it will pull up detailed information about you. And it's surprising how many delegates use this feature to understand a little bit more about the expertise that you're bringing to the program. So when you submit your bio, if you haven't already, make sure that you include in your bio something that speaks to the information that you'll be sharing in your presentation, something that lets the potential attendee know your expertise for presenting that information. I also want to call your attention to some on-site resources. We talked about the registration desk and the ISPE staff there, and you'll see ISPE throughout the conference, staff members with white badges on, and so you can stop any one of us for assistance, and we'll get you to the right person. We've also set up a speaker ready room, and we'll talk a little bit more about how to use that. The speaker ready room is a place where you can deliver any revised presentations to the audiovisual team, and you can also go there to review your presentation with them to make sure everything is running smoothly. Gives you a little bit of confidence going into your session. And there will be some seating available in there if you need to meet with one of your colleagues in your session in preparation. So we talked about Speaker Connect. I'm going to skip over this slide, but you'll find the link here so that if you need to use it, once we send out these slides to all of you, you'll have that link readily accessible, and you can bookmark it as you need to. Also want to talk momentarily about the mobile app. We are in the process of getting this set up again this year, and those of you who have been to annual meeting programs before have seen it in the last couple of years, and it is a great tool for on-site. You're able to go in and create your personal profile and a schedule. You can search for other speakers and sessions. You can look through the list of exhibitors, etc. There are a number of resources available on it. We'll have it ready and live the week before the conference, but you can actually download the app now. You just go to your Apple Store or Google Play and search for ISPE events, and you'll see the mobile app from last year, and you can get acquainted with it a little bit. But the one for this year will be available right before the conference. I'm going to open up the mics and check to see if there are any questions at this time.
So I would like to know, because until now I haven't finished for the bio. What is the deadline to send it back?
That's a great question, and that's actually on our next slide. I think you might have been a more recent addition to the speaker lineup, so we've offered a little bit of leeway in terms of the deadlines for those of you who have just been added to your session. For those of you who have been on the lineup for a while, you'll see that the bio photo agreement presentation abstract are due mid-July. So if you haven't submitted those, please do that as soon as possible.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm going to put you all back on mute and go through a few more slides, and then I'll open the mics again in a few minutes. So I want to run through the rest of these deliverables, make sure that everything is clear for you. We have all of the final session schedules from the session leaders now. There are a few speakers who are pending internal approval to participate, and so those folks will be added to the website agenda as soon as they have clearance. We also want to encourage you, if your presentation requires internal legal review, to submit to that department in mid-August. The PowerPoint presentation drafts are due August 31st, and so you want to give adequate time within your organization for that review. And we've also included here the early bird deadline for registration. You will have received registration information in your confirmation letter. And if you have not received that confirmation letter, please reach out to Sigma Chaudhry. Sigma will be happy to resend that to you. Sometimes those things end up in your spam folder or your junk mail folder. And so alert us right away if you have not received that. Also, in regard to the PowerPoint drafts, the primary purpose for you submitting at the end of August is to allow time for your session leaders to review and comment on your presentations. You'll be able to then take a little bit of time after that to refine them, and your final PowerPoint presentations and any handouts associated with that are due October 4th. We've also added the last day to book the hotel for the hotel discount. The Philadelphia Marriott is the conference hotel. The conference will actually take place in the Philadelphia Convention Center. And this is in close proximity to that, so is the most convenient site for you to stay. So I want to talk briefly about some of these deliverables just so that you're clear on what we need and why they're important. The presenter agreement is significant for two primary reasons. One is that it confirms your information for the conference. We put it in the printed program, we put it on the website, and ultimately on your conference badge, and we just want to make sure that we have that information correct. And when you go to visit the annual meeting agenda page that I showed a bit earlier, make sure that what's displaying there is correct, and if it is not, please do alert Sigma right away and she'll make that adjustment. The other really important thing about your presenter agreement is that it either allows or prohibits ISPE from posting your presentation. We do make the presentations available to registered attendees only, and we secure them and password protect them so that they cannot be used inappropriately. And we hope that all of you on your presenter agreement will indicate that you're able to share your presentation. We do recognize that some companies prohibit that, but we hope that if there are some restrictions around that you'll consider submitting an abridged version that we can post on the website. We have a number of attendees who like to either print out or pull up on their laptops during the presentation to follow along and make notes as you're presenting. So please do consider that carefully. And the agreement also confirms your commitment to a content-focused and commercial-free presentation. ISPE prides itself on making sure that our education does not contain commercial intent. That's why we have an exhibit hall, and would ask that your presentations be focused on the content and the science. If you have completed a presenter agreement in the last year and you don't have any changes to your demographic information, or you're comfortable with the permissions that you submitted when you turned that in within the last year, then you don't need to submit a new one at this time. On the bios and photos, keep in mind that your session leader is going to use your bio to introduce you. They may not read it word for word, but you definitely want to include the information that you think is pertinent for the expertise that you're sharing during the session. And they are currently due, so get those to us as soon as possible. And if you would like to check and make sure that we have on file your latest bio, you can check it in your ISPE account online. If you need information on how to log in, contact Sigma or member services, and we'll help you get connected so you can review that. Photos are optional. We like to have them for the website display, and the resolution of those is important. We need them to be 300 DPI or higher if possible. We did a screenshot here of accessing your profile information. You do have to log in from the ISPE homepage with the username and password. And if you were not previously a member of ISPE, once you were designated as a speaker, we created an account for you. So you can use the forgot my username or password access, or simply contact member services directly and they'll be able to assist you. So the presentation abstract is really all about clarifying your presentation title and a little bit of detail about your presentation for the delegates. We find that sometimes we have a presentation title that was originally submitted for the working agenda, and as you're working on your presentation, your title might morph into something a bit different. We want to make sure that what's on the website and in the printed material is as accurate as possible. So please do submit that so we can confirm your presentation title, and then we will also add the description of your presentation to the website display. Now let us know what issues being addressed, what attendees will take away. It's a very short description, does not need to be lengthy at all. I want to focus now on session room resources. Before I move to that, though, I'm going to open the mic and make sure there aren't any questions about the deliverables.
I just want to know if in my presentation, if I refer or use some of ISP guideline, it look like some campfire or something that we use. Do I need to ask for permission before using it?
As long as you reference the source of that information, that should be fine.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question regarding our drafts that you would like to have by the end of the month. If we do not get it legally approved, is it possible to send you a draft with just a notation that it's not legally approved so that it's not shared in any way, so I could get your feedback that way and then get the final presentation reviewed by folks? Is that okay?
Yes, that's perfectly fine, Ryan. Thanks. That's a great question.
Thanks.
Any other questions about deliverables? All right. I'll mute everyone again, and we'll talk a little bit about the session room resources. You have people resources within each session room to help you in preparation for the session and during the session. We'll have a dedicated audiovisual technician in each room, and they will actually control the opening of the presentations from the back of the room. And we'll talk a little bit more about the presentation slide decks in a moment, but you'll still have the capacity to advance your own slides. We'll have a slide changer there for you. But that individual will be there to help troubleshoot any issues and to pull up the master session slide deck at the beginning of the program. And an ISPE staff member will be there to serve as a resource, to get information that you need, to supply materials and so forth. We'll also have what we call a confidence monitor that you'll be able to see from the podium, so that you can watch you can see your slides easily without having to turn around to look at the large screen. And in addition to the monitor, it will contain a speaker timer. And and it will count down the amount of time that you have remaining to complete your presentation. This is one reason why the session schedules that have been submitted by your session leaders is so important, because the audiovisual technician uses that session schedule to set the speaker timers. So when you meet with your session leader this month to review the session plan with them and the other speakers, make sure that you're confirming the time that each person is committed to, so that we can keep the sessions on schedule, and that you're not caught short in your presentation. As I mentioned, you'll have a slide changer with a laser pointer, and there'll be a podium, a projector, and a large screen, sometimes two, depending on the size of the room. And there'll be mics at the podium, the head table, and microphones for the attendees as well for any Q&A that you're conducting. The materials that will be provided will be a session schedule, the speaker bios. You'll each have a name tent that we'll place on the head table, and we'll also make available some paper question cards for folks that would rather fill out a question card as opposed to coming to the microphone. We also want to encourage you to spread the word with your colleagues. We know from our experience and our research that your communication about this program, this conference, is the most important message that your colleagues will receive. And people tell us on our surveys that the reason that they heard, the way that they heard about the event and the way that they helped make their decision was through colleague recommendations. So we really want to encourage all of you to spread the word. We've included some instructions for posting on social media. You can actually go to the agenda website, for example, and you can use one of these tags to the right in order to post something immediately on LinkedIn. It's a very easy process, and we have actually included the instructions for doing that on Speaker Connect for you, and we have a link here. The other option that I want to encourage some of you to think about is to consider writing a blog about your individual topic for ISPE's iSpeak. The site contains blogs by members about all different kinds of topics, but you actually can have an influence on individuals' understanding of what you're going to present on and the significance of it by putting together a brief blog about your topic. We'll be happy to work with you. We have a digital content manager who works closely with us to finalize those blogs and get them published. And so I really want to encourage you to think about doing that. The other thing that you want to remind colleagues of as you're emailing or putting the word out is that early registration deadline, which is at the end of the month, because that's a substantial savings for folks who are going to be coming to the meeting. Also, I want to talk a moment about evaluations. If you have participated in our conferences before, you know that we always send out a survey following the conference to ask for detailed information about your experience. The other thing I wanted to call your attention to is that we have a mechanism on the mobile app that allows delegates to give you feedback on your individual session. And so once the session has begun, the attendees can actually give the session and the speakers a rating through the mobile app. And once we get that feedback, we do provide that back to the session leaders at the conclusion of the conference to share with everyone on the team. In the interim, we definitely want to make sure that you feel comfortable sharing any feedback that you have about your experience as a speaker, about the conference in general, about how your session went. We're always looking for that kind of feedback to continue to improve the conference and the attendee and speaker experience. So don't hesitate to reach out to us. I want to talk for a moment about panel management and preparation. It seems, rather simplistic. You're all sitting up there on the dais and answering questions from the delegates, but a little bit of planning goes a long way in preparing for a panel. And just to clarify, the preparation for a panel is different than just a simple, straightforward Q&A with the audience. But if you are planning a panel discussion and there'll be interaction among the panelists, there'll be some topics that are focused on, then you definitely want to arrange a meeting of the panel members to discuss that in advance, talk through the process of how it's going to work, and whether or not each panel member will be asked to say something at the beginning, and who will be the moderator, who will be fielding the questions, all of that. So a little bit of preparation for that goes a long way to making that a good experience both for the panelists and the attendees. We also will be recording selected sessions again this year for purchase following the conference. And I've put this in our briefing because I want to make sure that if for some reason your company would not allow you to be recorded, please notify Sigma in the next 2 weeks. We want to make sure that we make a notation about your inability to be recorded well in advance so that we don't select your session. All right, I'm going to open this for questions, and for those of you who may only be serving on a panel, you're welcome to sign off of the briefing at this point in time. I'll be talking more specifically about with those of you who are giving a presentation for the remainder of this briefing, so feel free to sign off. Any questions at this point in time?
This is Wolfgang Winter from Agilent. Quick question. If I have not heard from Sigma or anyone else that any of my deliverables are still missing, then can I safely assume I'm good to go for now? Apart from the presentation, of course.
Yes, you certainly can. And I'll make a note, Wolfgang, for Sigma to confirm that with you.
Perfect. Thank you.
You are welcome. Any other questions? All right. Hearing none, let's move forward here. We talked a little bit about the deadline date for the drafts and the final version. Just a couple things I want to point out here. When you send your final version, be sure that you send both to your session leader and to Sigma. Sigma has a lot of work to do once all of you start submitting your final presentations, because she's the one who is responsible for getting them prepared for website display, securing them, making sure that they're in handout version, and so the lead time is fairly significant, and we recognize that this may feel a little bit early and well in advance of the program, but we do need that time for processing and preparing for the production on site. Also, if you have any handouts that you would like for delegates to have access to online, please do provide those at the same time so that we can get those prepared as well. The question about the early deadline has come up a couple of times, so we wanted to speak briefly about it. And really, it's about the elevated level of production that we've instituted on site. We want to make sure that each session is presented in a very professional manner. And so what we've done to accomplish that is each session has its own master slide deck and contains all of the presentations within that session in one deck. So there isn't any fumbling at the podium to try to call up the next person's presentation and trying to find your presentation and all of that. It will all be handled by the AV technician in the back, and they'll queue up the next presentation as you go through the session. So that really is one of the primary reasons why we need that processing time in advance, and it also allows us to post post before the conference so that delegates can print them out and have them accessible during your presentation if they so desire. So I want to focus now on some presentation tips and tricks, and I know there are a number of you on the call who are veterans at this, and so feel free to chime in, alert me in the chat window if you want to share some thoughts with your colleagues on the call. And we tried to provide some varied resources for those of you at all levels of experience in conducting these presentations. As I mentioned on the Speaker Connect, we have a resource called Quality by Design, Ideas for Engineering a Great Presentation. And it's just a series of tips and tricks about how to create a very comprehensive but effective presentation. So feel free to access that and explore that. And we have some other things that we want to just call your attention to. One, anticipate questions that may arise as a result of your presentation. When you get into the Q&A section of your session, sometimes folks are a little shy, so it's good to have a few questions to queue up and to put out there to get the discussion going. And so thinking about that ahead of time is very valuable for you and for your session leader. Make sure you've gone through your presentation, and you can, as I mentioned earlier, you can do it on site with the AV technician in the speaker ready room. And also, I encourage you to prioritize your content and select certain slides that may be able to be skipped over during your presentation. If you're watching that speaker timer and you're running out of time, then having a plan as to which slides you can pass over is helpful. And once you submit your presentation for accessibility by the delegates, they'll be able to see those slides that you didn't necessarily get to talk directly to. And just if you need to, and if it makes you feel more confident, practice with a stopwatch or a timer so that you can make sure that you can get all of the slides in that you want to. We every once in a while we'll get a slide deck that is 70 slides long for a 25-minute presentation, and when we see those, we typically reach out to you and encourage you to revise the presentation to make sure that you can adequately cover the content. We have some suggestions for formatting, and we talked about using the annual meeting template. I want to encourage you to put your company logo on the first and the last slide so that recognition is there, since you'll be using the annual meeting template. And be sure to put your name, title, and company on the title slide and your contact information on the last slide so that delegates can reach out to you if they have further questions. We also encourage you to avoid red and green font wherever you can. Now, we're up close on this presentation this morning, so it's easy to see everything, but from the back of the room, those colors can sometimes be problematic, and we recognize that you often have tables or images that you import from other sources into your slide deck, which is fine, and sometimes those do have red or green font, and we understand that those can't be changed, but just as an overall recommendation. Also, watch your font size. We recommend font sizes for titles and text. We also recommend that you keep the bullet points to a minimum. We absorb things in about 10 seconds or so on a slide, and you want to speak to the slide rather than reading it. So keep your bullet points as your outline, and then the details come from the how you're expressing each of those topic points. Also, just a note about spelling out acronyms that are unique to your company. I mean, certainly there are industry-wide acronyms that everyone gets, but there may be a few that are unique to your company that you want to make sure people understand. So please be sure to spell those out. And we always want to make sure that what you're presenting is obviously accurate and reflective of current industry standards. And that's where your session leader feedback comes in to help you make sure that what's being presented is appropriate for that topic. And if the presentation content, as was asked earlier, is the work of others, that you be sure to reference those in your presentation. We also want to encourage you to incorporate some interactive components. As adult learners, our attention span is a little short, and everybody's multitasking these days with their phones and their tablets and whatnot. And so the more interactive components you can incorporate into your presentation, the better. They do not have to be sophisticated. It can be as simple as asking people to raise their hand in response to a question. So think about how you can integrate some of those things throughout your presentation just to keep people's attention and keep them engaged. We want you to use your industry experience. It is extremely valuable for your colleagues, and so direct examples are important in the course of your presentation. And as always, we want to make sure that it's focused on the content and the science and is not of commercial intent. Okay, I'm going to open this up for any final questions. Anything at all?
Thank you so much.
You are welcome. You are welcome. Don't hesitate to contact us afterwards if you have any further questions. We are looking forward to seeing you in person, and we'll be happy to assist as you make your final presentations.
Okay.
Hey, quick question. Are these tips and techniques located on the speaker website?
Actually, I'm going to be sending all of you this slide deck, so you will have them, and the special resource that we developed on creating a great presentation is on the Speaker Connect as well.
Okay, very good. Thanks.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
Thank you.
All right, great. Thank you so much for joining me this morning, and we'll see you all in Philly.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
This conference will now be recorded.